First, I'd like to call on Robert M. Meyer, 4450 Scribner Road, Grant.
I'm presently a member of the Planning Commission and also represent Planning Commission on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Last week I hand-delivered a request to be reappointed to the Planning Commission. I was not listed in the paper as being approved. I would like to know if it was tabled, ignored, or denied, and the reasons why.
Thank you, Ms. L. We'll try to address that when it comes to that part of the agenda. Matthew Shepard, Perry, Michigan.
I'll just make it real brief. Over 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, I should say, I collected over 500 signatures to have investigation conducted regarding the funding for Veterans Trust Fund and where the money has gone over the years. I understand replacing people has solidified some of the problem, but nothing's been done in the remarks of justice. And if the money's going someplace, where's $4 million gone to? Does it go to the general fund? Does it go to the delinquent tax fund? What does it do? Other than that, I've got a funeral.
Thank you for your time.
The people need answers.
Mr. Tom Mankey, also.
The only reason I'm speaking right now is I'm very interested in this gentleman's question. He served this county. He's done a good job, and I hope there isn't any political nonsense going on with this body that would be not letting him serve. Just because he doesn't agree with certain members on this body does not mean that he doesn't serve this community and he doesn't represent us that agree with him. So I'm hoping that his name gets put back on, and I'm hoping that he gets back on, because otherwise it will only look into this community as a backlash from this board, because somebody or a few on this board don't like his political leanings. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment at this time? All right, in that case, we'll move on to call the sheriff. I know that you have a prepared statement that you'd like to make.
That's correct. I agreed to read a letter on behalf of the local emergency planning committee. This is in reference to him becoming a full-time emergency manager. When I selected Mr. Atkins for that position, I was very well aware of his fine reputation as an emergency manager. In fact, he had been referred to as the godfather of emergency managers, very highly sought after by other jurisdictions, but we were fortunate enough to acquire him at a part-time status. This letter, again, is on behalf of the local emergency planning committee. And the many first responders. As you finalize the budget for the coming year, we are writing to show our support and respect for consideration of moving Trent Atkins to full-time. We feel very fortunate that Shiawassee County was able to attract such a recognized talent leader in the field of emergency management to work for our county and individual communities. Trent Atkins' leadership and uncanny ability to energize others has made a significant impact to the safety and preparedness of the greater Shiawassee County community. In a very short period, Trent has initiated and assisted in coordinating numerous collaborative efforts and events, such as the active violence training and exercises for schools and all first responders. And that's a combined effort with the fire, police, and EMS. Active violence incident training for churches. Event safety planning for the Veterans of Rock and Roll concerts in both Durand and Vernon the last 2 years. coordination of resources for the train derailment, along with the relocation of over 800 passengers that were on the North Pole Express that evening. Numerous training and exercises, including the I-69 mass casualty incident tabletop exercise. Assisting schools with their emergency action plans and assisting schools in applying for the 2018 Michigan State Police Competitive School Safety Grant, in which 5 schools in Shiawassee County were awarded funding totaling $724,000. Obtaining AEDs to be used in both the district court and circuit court in case somebody should suffer a heart attack. Whole grant and he wrote a grant, obtained over $22,000 in ballistic vests and helmets for local law enforcement, and negotiated the transition from Code Red contract to the RAVE contract, which provides our mass notification. This resulted in nearly $30,000 savings. Although his local efforts have been very successful to date, the challenges facing our community as a nation and in the world require constant vigilance to stay abreast of the emerging threats and to bring to bear plans and strategies to address those risks and give Shiawassee County the best possible advantage in providing protection to our population. Please consider providing emergency manager with the benefits of full-time hours to continue to better prepare our collective community to face the challenges we will surely encounter in new and diverse ways in the coming years. Your consideration is greatly appreciated by all who work with him, and this is signed sincerely, Local Planning Commission, which is Phil Haviland, Russ Wall, Jody DeFriend, Casey Elliott, Chief Kyle Box, myself, Kevin Davis from Memorial Hospital, First Lieutenant Todd Mapes from the State Police, Lieutenant Jeff Yonker from the State Police, Angela Norling from 911, and Barry Marks. The letter is also signed by nearly every police chief and nearly every fire chief in Shiawassee County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So at this time, we will now move on to the Economic and Physical Development Report. Commissioner Brock.
Item A, I move to review zoning ordinance 18-11-08 for conformance to the board's action of November 8, 2018, and adopt for an enactment, easy for you to say, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second. We have a motion, and I'll support. This item is open for discussion.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, this is the spot zoning for the finer rezoning on M78, right?
That's right.
Speaks against the township's will to have that approved, as well as the Township Planning Commission.
Yes, sir.
And we heard from the Shiawassee Economic Development folks fully supporting this, even though it is what we call spot zoning. So I just wanted to make clear that's the issue that we're voting on this evening.
Clarify, spot zoning is not illegal, but yes, you are correct.
No, it's not illegal, but the externalities created by spot zoning create additional challenges down the road. It's very difficult to manage that growth once you start down that path.
Chairman, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
This actual vote is actually just for the board to ascertain that the document drawn up conforms to the action taken by the board previously. Not to decide the matter, to decide to decide if it conforms to that decision.
Thank you.
So the decision's been approved, this is just to approve the actual language of the
Yes, the board approved it last month.
zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so now they had to create a new description.
Commissioner Holzhauer.
We do some spot zoning, wheeler trucking over in Hazelton Township. They had 40 acres of farmland, and that's right on 13 on Eastern Road. And we wanted that trucking company here. We're going to have employees there, a lot of trucks and good paying jobs. And we got to keep those on the state highways, and that's what this other one is, on a state highway. And if we're going to move forward, we're going to have to adopt some of those on state highway, even though they're not zoned industrial.
And as I said last month, maybe it's time to take a look at a new county master plan. It's been many years since we've updated that.
Thank you, I would concur with that, Mr. Chair. And that's what I've been speaking about all along. It may very well be the right location for this, but pursuant to the plan that was updated in 2013, it doesn't allow for it. So I think that's all the more reason to make these investments in planning documents and engage the SEDP folks in the planning process rather than end around when they just find it, you know, politically expedient to get rezoning done in an area that doesn't call for it.
Very good. Any other discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Item A, Econ Physical Development, all in favor of moving on to the final vote tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, I move to review and approve the agreement with Amalgam LLC to maintain digital parcel data for the county to pay Amalgam land description changes and errors in the parcel map, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion, Commissioner Root second. This item is now open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor of item B, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item C, I move to consider adopting Resolution 18-12-13 for enhanced access to public records pursuant to Public Act 462 of 1996 as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second. Item is open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor of item C, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item D, move to consider reappointing Richard Musson to the Airport Board for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to 12/31/20, or until his successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. Item D, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item E, move to consider appointing Daniel McMaster to the GLS Region 5 Planning and Development Committee for 1-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Item E, now open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I made an observation last night, outgoing Commissioner McMaster, and I see his name is on the agenda for no fewer than 4 appointments to different committees tonight. I believe he's also on Parks and Rec, and maybe Michigan Works, and several others. So I'm just wondering, I thought that we would have more interested members of our community come forward rather than rely on an outgoing commissioner that, you know, seems to want to continue to make a livelihood attending meetings with $25
That
per
may not be
meeting.
fair to say.
Well, I just wonder,
Let's stay politically correct here when he's not here. But noted.
I would say the same thing if Commissioner McMaster was here. I just find it hard to believe that we have an outgoing commissioner that wants to serve on that many committees when we have 70,000 people in this county.
We have a list of all those who applied to all the committees, and he happened to like to apply to many of them, as we see. And some of them, he was one of 2 or the only applicant. And so he passed through committee earlier this week, and that's what we're left with here by Wednesday. That doesn't mean that you could open up discussion and get a 2/3 vote and put a new name on there. But at this time, all applications are closed, and in some cases, he was the only applicant.
Well, yeah, I get
You
it.
know,
And
and
back
you're
to-
right, we need to go back to the first of 2 years ago, when we said, how can we get the word out and get people to serve? And we're here 2 years later, and it's still difficult, finding it difficult to find enough people to serve on some of these boards. Other boards are very popular. Veterans, Planning Commission, those boards, you have all the applicants in the world, but you get GLS Region 5, and no one wants to drive to outside the county to go to these meetings.
Well, I certainly appreciate Mr. McMaster's service here. I just think that it seems excessive given the number of committees that we're talking about.
I think this meeting actually was 45 since it's out of town, but that's a
Hardly
majority.
half.
Yeah,
Hardly living.
yes.
Any other commissioner comments, discussion, questions on this item? Okay, then we'll go to vote. Item B, all in favor of moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item F, move to consider appointing Rick Mengo to the GLS Region 5 Planning and Development Committee for a 1-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
And a motion and a second on item F. Questions, discussion?
Yeah, these are both just general public. Obviously, they're not related to any,
Two applicants,
like commissioner.
two openings.
Stuff like that.
wasn't like anyone was favoring any commissioner or anything like that. I mean, you had two applicants, we have two appointments.
Yeah, and we still have an opening for an elected
And there's-
official, but no elected officials apply to be on this board, so.
Yes,
Yeah, he's a new person that just put his name in, so he's not a person that's been on a lot of boards. He just decided to turn in his name and put it on, so.
I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the board and say that we're thankful for people like that who decide that they want to volunteer.
I don't know if he knows what board he's getting on.
Next month.
Stuck now.
Yeah.
I would think next month a commissioner will be appointed then, right? Correct.
Probably, yeah.
So that would fill that final position.
No,
No.
there's a commission, we send a commissioner, and then there's an elected position too.
Oh,
So we have a
okay.
county elected position that we can put in there, but
Yeah, it's not the
Whoever
easiest,
applies.
that's not the easiest committee to fill.
A lot of these aren't, you know, they're not attractive. You want to talk about planning commission or veterans affairs, people want to be on those, make a difference, but a lot of people don't even know what GLS Region 5 planning does. It's understandable too.
And I'm on it.
We've got to find a way to get the word out as to what they do and why we need people, and we clearly have failed at that. Commissioner Custer. Any other discussion on item F? Hearing none, all in favor of moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item G, move to consider appointing Daniel McMaster to the Midwest Michigan Trail Authority representing Shiawassee County resident to fill a vacancy from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second. Motion, we now have a second, Commissioner Root. This item is open for discussion. Comments, questions?
only applicant.
From the applicant, once again, so.
Maybe it would be helpful to explain exactly what it's meant to, or until the successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents. Does that mean this person can be replaced at any time?
Yes.
It does.
If he's married.
I think that's important. I've never really asked that question. I assume a lot, but, so whoever's appointed to any committee can be replaced
This
at
board
any
can
time.
appoint or remove anybody at the board's will.
At any time.
It's always been that way.
Though we could caution against when we don't have enough applicants for certain boards, start ripping people off, that
Oh,
the best message is.
And as I understand it, serving on this committee currently, this position will replace Mr. Horvath then, who's currently seated on that committee. And so, beginning of January, there'll be a vacancy then, presumably there'll be a county commissioner that will serve in that capacity.
I was gonna say, probably Mr. Horvath will be the commissioner in charge of the GLS, and then there'll be another opening to the public, because I believe that's his official capacity now is general public, so if he comes on,
Basically, it's
if he starts under the commissions next year, he will probably take that position, and then there'll be an opening for the general public again, if
Sure.
we can, or if you gentlemen find someone to fill it.
Okay, yes.
This is my 8th term here, or 8th year, and I've never seen anybody voted off yet, so.
Yeah. Okay, hearing no discussion, item G, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item H, I move to consider reappointing Casey Elliott to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing environmental interests for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary support.
Motion, Commissioner Holzhausen, support. Any questions, comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of item H, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item I, I move to consider reappointing Terry McLeod to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing general public for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, item I, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion
Item J, I move to consider reappointing Rick Crawford to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing solid waste industry for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until the successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
Motion and a second. Item is open for discussion. Hearing none. Item J, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item K, move to consider reappointing Gary Burke to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing the Industrial Waste Generator for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Or,
A motion and a Chairman Bart's second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item L, move to consider reappointing Rob Frank to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing city government for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
And a motion and a second on the item. Mr. Chairman.
I wonder how it worked out that all these gentlemen are up for reappointment at the same time.
That's crazy. What if no one would have wanted?
Well, because the board would have been staggered, you know?
Yeah.
It needs to be staggered.
What is there?
What's the year end?
6, I think there's like 13 or 15 members to the board.
There is 12 or 13 this year.
So, yeah, it's about half.
Just not,
Yeah.
Any other discussion items, question? All right, item L, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item M, I move to consider reappointing John Gall to the Solid Waste Management Committee representing solid waste industry for a 2-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents. Support.
Motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none. Item M, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Item N, I move to consider reappointing Cody Baker to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and a Commissioner Cascarelli, second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item O, I move to consider reappointing Renee Brown to the Parks and Recreation Commission to fill a vacancy from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. A motion and a second on item O. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
no.
Nay. Motion carries.
Item P, I move to consider reappointing Daniel Ammerman to the Zoning Board of Appeals Board for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and a second on item P. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none.
Curious, I'm not familiar with Mr. Aaron's, his background. He's currently serving on the zoning board of appeals, looks like. Just curious.
Says reappointing.
Yeah, currently serving.
You know how many terms he served?
This is, I think he finished a partial term. He got appointed a year ago or a year and a half ago. I don't have his resume in front of me, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
It was all discussed in the committee. We had committee meetings.
Yeah, I'm not on that committee.
Any other discussions on this item? Hearing none. Item P. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item Q, move to consider appointing Joel, I'm gonna mess up his name, to the zoning board of appeals as a member, leaving his current position as an alternate vacant. Current term ends 12/31/20, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion, we now have a second. Item is now open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none. Item Q, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item R, move to consider appointing Brian Marks to the Planning Commission representing industrial to fill a vacancy effective immediately and expiring on 12/31/19, or until a successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents. Support.
A motion and a second. Item R, yes, sir.
In relation to the chair,
Not very distantly, if it, so, no, same last name, no relation.
coincidence, thank you.
Not, I do know, he owns, the industrial complex over at 71.
Great Lakes Fusion?
Great Lakes Fusion,
I think he's been before the commission before.
I think so.
For the brownfield.
His company donated, to the Geck Road bathroom. And then, Rick Crawford and myself, was donated.
Thank you.
Rick Crawford's nephew. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of item R, moving it forward to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item S, move to consider appointing Roderick Hall to the Planning Commission representing social for a 3-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
The motion, we now have a second. This item is open for discussion, and at this time, this would be the social one that I believe Mr. Redmeyer would have qualified for. Do we have, I don't remember the circumstances surrounding, if I do recall, was that the application was sent after the deadline, but am I wrong?
No, that's why, but we still then had the applicant before us when we made our decision. He presented his letter, even though I mean, so I don't want it to look as though our staff withheld a letter or didn't give it to us on time, because that certainly did not happen. It came in late, it came in past. Originally, we had something that just said with no response, didn't seem interested. So the letter came, the letter was brought before us. You brought the letter in.
I brought a letter in.
And then I brought it to the
Only
board.
after I was informed.
Sir.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll let you have your, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was brought in. It was past the deadline, but it was brought in. We didn't withhold it. We presented it to the board when we met on Monday. I said this one didn't make the deadline, but it is still up to the board if we want to consider. The applicant is still in front of us. He has been serving as a member, so, I mean, we didn't hide it, we didn't bury it. We weren't not considering him. He was in consideration. We just, at this time, another name was made. I don't sit on econ, but that's the, and that's the
There were
best
several
I,
names.
yeah, that's the best I can explain.
Cool. Yes, sir.
And I think it probably is appropriate at this time, but to my knowledge, there is no political affiliation associated with planning commission members. I don't think they run based on a political viewpoint or party, as was earlier discussed. And just as a reminder to the rest of the commission, if in fact the reference was in regards to the windmill, that was a unanimous affirmative motion and approval by the planning commission, so there's no ill feelings by this commission toward any planning commissioner in regards to that particular item. I've never heard a commissioner, in fact, voiced any negative opinions about anybody on the planning commission based on a decision that they made. So just as a point of clarification, if there seemed to be an accusation earlier today, I certainly had no ill feelings whatsoever. So I just wanted to bring that. I thought it's appropriate at this time.
Any other commissioner discussion on this
I'm
item?
curious, I mean, if Mr. Overmeyer's application wouldn't have been tardy, would the outcome have been the same?
I think so. It came up in committee, it was mentioned, but we didn't withhold the application even though it was tardy, and there was a number of names that were considered, was it yesterday? Monday, and there was just it was a big pool, and I think in committee, not that I speak for the committee, but it seemed like there was an appetite for new blood. And that actually crossed, board lines, people seem to have an appetite to appoint new names. That's what I would, again, if you noticed that yesterday as well. So
Well, it
that is
seems-
my observation.
I suppose, I mean, I guess, when it's convenient, I mean, there was one on the VA that, you know, I made a pitch for, it was overturned, and the individual's been served for 20 years. So I think when it suits the majority of commissioners, they go ahead and say they need new blood, and when it
There's
doesn't,
no one,
they don't.
there's no one on the Veterans Board served for 20 years. That's inaccurate.
Well, the
individual
individual
that
that
was-
he's served for a long
The
time.
individual that was applying, that was not a member, had previously served 20 years, up until a year and a half ago, or 2 years, or at the end of last year. Mr. Pytosh was the 20-year service member. Mr. Nations and Mr. Schneider were the ones that were actively on the board and had just got appointed 18 months ago. So there's no, they've 18 months of service.
So they
Not
misunderstood that then.
Yeah, not 20
Last
years of
enough.
service, no.
Thank you.
That's okay. Any other questions while we're here? Discussion, questions, concerns? Okay. And, I suppose because if I was to hold your comment till the end, it would be disregarded, so I'm going to make an exception and let you, if you have anything to say now before the vote.
Is that all right?
You have the floor, yes, you do.
In conversation with Casey, I never received the letter indicating that I needed to resubmit. And when, as soon as I found out the same day, one day last week, I brought in my handwritten request to continue serving on the board. But just so you understand, I was not informed by letter from the county that I needed to resubmit.
Okay. Well, I think that leads us to a different point, that maybe we ought to have a policy in place that informs everybody.
They're all advertised in the paper.
That's true.
They're advertising in the paper, and I know for a fact, that-
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Casey sent it out. I'm not gonna let Casey hang out to dry. She sent the letter out. She double-checked, she rechecked, she printed it out. It has our chairman's signature on it. It was sent out. I mean, I don't know if it was the mail, maybe it was the mail, something screwed up. Obviously, Caroline's had problems with the mail, but I know for a fact it left this office. It was sent out.
Regardless, sorry that that is something that's caused you concern.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely. Any other discussion on this item before we vote? Hearing none. All in favor of moving item S on to Thursday, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item T, which is a discussion item,
Moving on.
appointment to the following board or committee, plan commission representing government.
Okay. Do we need a second to discuss open issues?
It's just a discussion.
We're not, let's discuss.
This isn't it, this is on the,
Planning Commission representing government, we have 3 names currently. If I could be refreshed as to their names, please. Is it Blackledge?
Blackledge, Tom Foster, and
Carolyn Stevens.
Stevens.
And only one of these individuals will be able to serve on this board.
I like to nominate Blacklist.
Okay. We have a second. And we have a second. So, this item is now open for discussion, debate.
I'm just curious, Commissioner Olshausen, the background and expertise of the individual, you know, you recommend?
They talk about the subcommittee, so that's all. I'm not on that committee either, so.
I would like to nominate Mr. Foster, for the simple fact that he's already worked on that, planning commission, and he does have a background in it, and definitely an interest. He's also a New Haven Township representative.
I support that motion.
We cannot support it yet. So because we have an item, a motion, and a second, we'll vote on this. If it fails, we will vote on your motion and second.
I missed the second on
Yeah,
Mr.
that's all right. It was
Olshausen.
a Olshausen and a Root second.
Right.
Okay. Is there discussion on Blackledge?
Did someone give me any indication of this individual's background?
I believe he was a Vernon Township trustee. And without his resume in front of me, I don't know. He now lives in Laurel Township. That's pretty much all I can remember. He said in his application that he's passionate about this,
Yeah, I think he's passionate about the changing of the master plan and looking at that and
creating
being a part of that, so.
And obviously, Mr. Foster's been serving in good stead with the planning commission. We've had some interactions with the wind moratorium and the new ordinance. Very knowledgeable individual.
but at this time, he's not the one.
I didn't want him to get lost in the shuffle.
Fair enough. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote on Blackledge. Just to be very clear, if this passes, he will be the nomination going on to Thursday for this government representative of the planning commission.
Just be a roll call vote.
You can if you'd like. You know what? We'll go ahead and roll call.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Bartz,
No?
Commissioner Masters is excused, Commissioner Cascarelli,
No.
Commissioner Groff,
No.
Chairman Marks.
Yes, that is a 3-3 fail. Blackledge's name has failed at this time. We will now consider, we have a motion, do you still have a second
I
for
do.
Foster? Any discussion on Mr. Foster?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I don't know Mr. Blackledge, I'm sure he's a fine gentleman, but Mr. Foster did call me and talk to me in length about this job, and I wasn't gonna nominate him, but since he was nominated, I feel he would do a good job.
I've had a number of interactions with Mr. Foster. He's extremely involved and very dedicated. You know, and we're all aware that he ran for county commissioner against Mr. Holzhausen and failed to win. But it just, to me, that indicates even a higher desire to be involved in the county. And I think he's extremely dedicated. He works hard, he enjoys it. He's also involved in the township, and I can't honestly say I know what position he holds in the township, but I just think he's a very dedicated individual who knows what he's talking about. He's experienced. He knows the rest of the members on the planning commission. They interact. Whether they agree or not agree is irrelevant. It's his involvement in the planning commission. I think he's done a great job. I'd like to see him continue. He doesn't. He's not a pushover. He voices his opinion quite clearly and openly in that, and I think that's important in all levels and all commissions, whether it be the county commissioners or county planning or any of them. I'd like to see people voicing their opinion and you know, strong opinions or weak opinions, but I love it when people express their opinions, right or wrong, and especially people who voice the opinions of their constituents, whether they agree with them or not. I think that's the job of any planning commissioner or county commissioner or anybody on any committee. I think you represent your constituents and you should voice that openly and firmly and you know, whether you totally agree with it or not. I think, and I do believe that he represents his constituents very, very well.
Yes, I'd like to concur with Mr. Bruff's comments and just simply say that if we can find room for an outgoing commissioner on no fewer than 5 boards, it seems to me that we could find one that's been serving in good stead who may have failed to run for a commissioner and keep that individual involved in our governance here. So that's who I would be supporting.
Any other commissioner discussion on this item?
I don't like that we're making it that he ran for commission. That shouldn't be the subject topic.
Yeah,
Make it look like we're, you know, got an axe to grind against the guy, and I don't know that that's really the case.
No, my point was that
No, I know.
he's involved
Yeah.
and he wanted to continue to be involved even at a higher level. So I just think, you know, the level of his interest is definitely there. It's not just to fill a position or, you know, have a seat on a committee. You know, I just think he's very dedicated, and I'd like to see him rewarded. I'd like to see anybody rewarded for dedication.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, to be clear, we are now voting on Tom Foster to be the government, representing government on the commission. He will move on to Thursday if he is passed. And to keep pace, we will just go right ahead with a roll call vote. Once again, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Root,
No.
Commissioner McMasters is excused. Commissioner Cascarelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Brough,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen, Commissioner Bartz,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman Marks.
No. The name has failed 3-3. So we are back. Is anyone interested in nominating Stevens and doing a vote, or none? And this will die. It will either be resurrected via 2/3 vote tomorrow, or it will be taken up by the next Board of Commissioners.
I think we have one, obviously a highly qualified individual who's been serving in that capacity, so I prefer to let some time pass to see if consensus can be reached on that individual.
Fair enough.
And we will have a full board tomorrow.
This will-
But it won't be on the agenda, right, so they need 2/3.
It would need it, yeah, it would need a 2/3, or the next Board of Commissioners will take it up. And then you go a month without someone.
In the meantime, the planning commission functions at a less than full.
Yeah, that's.
No, he continues to serve until.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Until a successor is
board.
appointed, yeah. All right, hearing no nomination for Ms. Stevens, we will bury this, and we will either see it tomorrow or next month. Is
Mr.
that-
Chairman, that completes my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Brough. And at this time, we'll now move on to County Finance and Administration, Commissioner Root.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to establish a public hearing of the 2019 Shiawassee County proposed general fund budget for 6 p.m. on Thursday, December 20th, 2018. To be followed immediately by a special board meeting to establish the 2019 tax millage rate and approve the 2019 county budget.
Support.
We have a motion and a second on item A, Finance and Administration. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none. Item A, all in favor of moving it on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider authorizing the annual agreement for extension services with Michigan State University, funded by voter-approved millage assessment, authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
Motion and a second on item B. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider authorizing the Register of Deeds to proceed with the preservation and digitization project on recorded plats and co-file technology, with co-file technologies in the amount of $94,937.50 to be paid from the Register of Deeds Automation Fund number 256-268-970-000 and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
A motion and a second. Item C, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider authorizing the sheriff's office to purchase one 2019 police Charger all-wheel drive car from Slingerland Chrysler in the amount of $25,407, with $20,000 to be paid from account number 101-333-718-000 and $5,407 to be paid from account number 101-333-860-000.
Support.
We have a motion and a second on item D. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider approval of a 2-year contract for shared technology service support, or support services, with the Shiawassee Regional Education Service District and Shiawassee County Sheriff's Office at a cost of $75,000 per year to replace the current contract with NetSource One and authorize the sheriff to sign all necessary documents.
We have a motion, we have a second. I believe this was a good, how much was the savings to switch over?
About $30,000.
$30,000 savings. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, item E, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move to consider approval of a 3-year contract with Zix to provide services to the county for secure email archiving, email spam filtering, and email encryption at an annual cost of $8,331.50 to replace the current contract with Barracuda and to be paid from account number 258-970-000.
Support. We have a motion made. Support. Commissioner Olshausen. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, item F, all in favor of moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion will carry over to tomorrow.
I move to consider approving the 2019 county holiday schedule.
Support. We have a motion and a second on the county holidays. Any discussion on the item?
Got a few of them, but
Yeah.
save a little money, you know?
Be careful.
Same as always.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, item G, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Root. At this time, we will now move on to Public Safety and Courts report. Commissioner Cascarilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, it's been moved to consider approving the contract between the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Prosecutor's Office for the provision of legal services to DHHS. The contract will provide $50,000 per year from December 2018 through September 2021, with option for 2 additional 1-year periods. The prosecutor to execute all necessary documents.
Support. Any motion and a Commissioner Bruff, second. Item A, is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item B, it's been moved to consider authorizing a renewal contract between Catholic Charities of Shiawassee and Genesee County to provide housing at 1042 North Shiawassee Street and/or 201 East MacArthur Street in Corona at a rate of $33 per day for base housing from 10/1 of 18 to 9/30 of 19, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. Item B has a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the,
Yeah, did we decide if that was then an increase, is that a flat rate, is that
That's paid to us.
paid to us? Yeah.
Yes.
But it didn't go up any, it didn't go down any, right?
Same thing.
Yeah. Because we were kind of discussing that yesterday, trying to. All right, that's all.
any other discussion? Hearing none, item B, all in favor of moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item C, it's been moved to consider authorizing the county coordinator to execute the revised Michigan Indigent Defense Commission compliance plan contract and authorize the public defender in consultation with the coordinator to execute other necessary documents. Continue hiring staff and authorizing expenditures in accordance with and amounts not to exceed the funding provided by the MIDC compliance plan and contract.
Support.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Is there any discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign? Aye. Motion carries.
Item D, has been moved to consider reappointing Chief Nick Cheros to the Community Corrections Advisory Board representing Police Chief for a 2-year term from 1/1 of 19 to 12/31 of 20, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
A motion, and Commissioner Olshausen second. Item D, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item E, it's been moved to consider reappointing Edward Bruckman to the Central Dispatch Board representing county elected at large for a 3-year term from 1/1 of 19 to 12/31 of 21, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. I have a motion and a Commissioner Bruff second. Item E, open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of moving on Ed Bruckman signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item F, it's been moved to consider reappointing Chief Kyle Box to the Central Dispatch Board representing law enforcement for a 3-year term from 1/1 of 19 to 12/31 of 21, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the chair to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion and a second on item F. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item G, it's been moved to consider appointing Kenneth McDonough to the Central Dispatch Board, representing city elected for a 3-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/21, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. A motion and a second. This item is open for discussion. Hearing none. I did get a phone call from the current chair seated for the 911, Deb Doyle, who applied. She was not passed on to today from committee. However, she simply requested that I would convey a message to the board that she hopes and believes that this is not the time to have new leadership when we are in a MERS crisis, and she would simply ask that you consider before this vote that you stick with those who have experience and they know what's going on there as opposed to someone new. So, that said, is there any other discussion on this item? Hearing
This is
none?
the only new, this is the only new person,
Yeah,
correct?
I know. He is new, yes,
But he's new on this board.
yes.
The other appointments were reappointments.
Yeah, so far, yes.
So far, correct.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none. Item G, all in favor of moving it on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. None. Motion carries.
Finally, item H, it's been moved to consider appointing Daniel McMaster as the Central Dispatch Board, representing citizens at large for a 3-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/21, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
We have a motion and a Commissioner Bartz, second, if I'm not mistaken. All right, yeah. Item H, is there any discussion on it? There's not.
I just want to, a question and a comment. Hasn't Dan been on the Central Dispatch before? I thought he was, it seems like he was.
I have sat
involved
on
with it.
Central Dispatch, and when I couldn't make it, he would be there for me. And
No,
when I
he's
could
been-
make it, he would be there, and I know the same, I think it's true for you.
I think he might even participate just as a commissioner, as an unappointed, because I see here it's appointing, but I could have sworn that he was on it.
He has not been appointed.
Well, yeah, not in an official capacity, but he is there, he has been involved in all the talks, and he does sit in the audience, he does talk with the board a lot about what's been going on.
I know I've spoken with him about, I know he's spoken openly about Central Dispatch, so I know he definitely has an interest.
Out of all of the names, times you see him on here, I would suspect, I know I'm speaking for him, I think this is the one he wanted to be on the most. So any other questions, discussion on this name? All right, hearing none, item H, all in favor of moving it on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Cascarelli. Now we move on to Health and Human Services Report, Commissioner Rowe.
Move to consider approving the Mid-State Health Network 2019 Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Advisory Board intergovernmental agreement, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. We have a motion, we have a second. Item is open for discussion. Yes, sir.
Larry, could you tell us a little more about that? I don't.
It's not a Larry.
I can't hear you. This isn't coming from the health department. This is.
That's why we didn't know anything about it yesterday. I said, I didn't think we heard about this at health board, but, so I don't know that we really know. And is it something, Mike, do you know that it's time sensitive, or can we say?
Is this the mid-state?
Yeah.
It's, I don't think it's time sensitive. This is an intergovernmental agreement. There's like 18 counties in the district here. It got sent to us. There was no other signatures on it yet, so I don't assume it's time sensitive. I'll call tomorrow morning, a number here, and find out exactly what this entails. This has to do with substance user disorder, which is, I guess, the term now for rehabilitation services.
Yeah,
I didn't know if there was money involved or what.
So is this a policy we would have to then follow? Is this we paying money?
If you want to put it through till tomorrow,
Okay.
well, if they put it through till tomorrow, we'll find out what it is.
Okay. Good enough. Any discussion on the item, questions that we want to know moving forward?
And it'll probably also involve the appointment of a representative to the do these things, but the intergovernmental agreement, so you have a person from all these.
Shiawassee County, they have a voice on such a board with 18 counties.
Oh.
Sounds like a good.
Find out.
Okay, we'll find out.
We'll see what we can find out tomorrow.
My recommendation would be to vote yes and move this on to tomorrow. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. We will do a voice vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move to consider authorizing the health department to hire a certified lactation consultant, the salary grade 7, $18 an hour, $18.11 an hour to $23.54 per hour to fill a vacancy.
Support the motion. Commissioner Cascarelli, support. Item D, open for discussion. Questions?
One thing in clarification on that, the title is actually International Board Certified Lactation. So the special credential, there's a difference.
International Board Certified.
And I don't support it.
We'll make sure that change goes on the report tomorrow before voting. Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Item B, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider reappointing Mary Bedinsky to the Health Board for a 3-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/21, or until the successor appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. We have a motion and a second on the item. Just to be clear, the next three names, C, D, and E on this agenda were all recommended by the Health Board, and they were passed.
Unanimously,
It was a unanimous pass, yep. The only other being Renee Brown was the other, and she didn't make it to the committee. So, is there any discussion on the item C, in particular, this is Mary Bedinsky? Hearing none. All in favor of moving her name onto tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider reappointing Patricia Cords to the Health Board for a 3-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/21, or until successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support. Item D has a motion and a Chairman Bart support. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of moving Patricia Cords on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider appointing Daniel McMaster to the Health Board for a 3-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/21, until successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Item E, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. All in favor of item E, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move to consider reappointing Les Schneider to the Veteran Affairs Committee for a 4-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/22, or until successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion and a second on item F. Any discussion, questions?
Yes, I've answered. I'm sure there was several applicants
Yep.
for these, and none of the ones that we've considered in the past.
Only 4, actually.
Actually, that's true. It's less than
Only
before.
4.
All right, I was just wondering, I know we've talked about that with you guys personally and on site. Still no recommendation for, Mr. Nothaway.
No application for this.
There was no-
We turned one in last time. So. We had to again. He's turned in at least 3. We talked about it when we had the resignation. We talked about appointing him, and then we went with somebody else, and I supported you guys. Just really been trying to get Mr. Nothaway on here. He's a very good gentleman. The Elsie area. Nothaways are big farmers up there.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Back to item F. All in favor of moving Les Schneider on to tomorrow for voting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
No.
One no. Motion carries.
I move to consider reappointing Michael Nations to the Veteran Affairs Committee for a 4-year term from 1/1/19 to 12/31/22, or until its successor is appointed and authorize the board chair to sign or execute all necessary documents.
A motion and a second. Mike Nation. Yes, sir.
I have a consideration as well, before we take this vote. And certainly don't mean to take your thunder, but Matthew Shepard has applied as well, many times. Is a veteran. I'm sure that this Michael Nations is a wonderful person as well. Matthew Shepard has applied to many committees and has been passed over. So I would, I'm not going to make a motion, but I would like the commissioners to keep him in mind when we do vote this way, because if Mr. Nations isn't nominated or isn't moved on to Thursday for a final vote, that would open up the door for Mr. Shepard to be nominated and voted on as well. If that also came to a tie, we would go to the Thursday meeting and with all 7 board members.
Yeah, I would just concur with Commissioner Brooks' comments, and if there's a stalemate here and that opens up a possibility of a third candidate, sounds like Commissioner Bartz had previous conversations about an individual as well, so maybe it's a good time that person winds up as a compromise candidate in this case.
Any other discussion on this item? I'll go ahead and plug for Mr. Mike Nations. He's done an absolute good job with the VA. I think we'd be making a horrible mistake not reappointing him as the current chairman. He's only served for 18 months and he's done nothing but a good job. And as much as this isn't a referendum against any other name, I think we want to reward names of individuals who do good. And I think that if we didn't do that, we'd be showing that there is some definite inside politics happening behind the scenes, which I often hear people make those accusations to the right of me, and all of a sudden, now here we are, and of course we're guilty of it, and we're not going to get called out for it. So that said, we have a motion and a second. We will vote on Mike Nations. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of moving him on to tomorrow signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-2.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Root. This time we'll move on to a report from Chairperson Commissioner Parks. Nothing new to report. We'll move on then to other agenda items. And
I would like to make something before we go to this. If we could do a consent agenda for all of those.
yeah, that's it.
items.
I'm gonna be ready.
All right.
All right, I would make a motion that we approve a consent agenda with items, econ, items D through S. Finance Committee, item G. Public Safety and Courts, items D through H. And Health and Human Services, items C through G.
All right, we have a motion on the table. I'll take a minute to look
Those are,
through.
yes, those are all of our appointments, plus I added the county holidays, because that's something we just vote on.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to.
Everything else, yeah, I think everything else involves money and.
We'll be here all night tomorrow.
Yes, we would.
We have to vote on that.
Well, we only have a motion on the table. We do not have a second.
No, support.
We do have a second. It's open for discussion. Not much to discuss. All in favor of, let's say, item A on other agenda items, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries, which makes our written agenda item now item B. And this time, the board will be entering into a closed
Wait,
session
wait,
if
wait.
we have, yes, sir.
Do you have any other agenda items? I do.
Sure, you are up.
Point of clarification, and I think Sheriff Begol certainly clarified a lot of it, also provided us with numbers in regards to emergency management position, where I was clearly and definitely misquoted by the newspaper as saying that that was a $161,000 position. At no time did I ever say that, even allude to it, even remotely close to that figure. We were talking mid-40s on a previous position and moving it in the mid-$80,000 range. So just a point of clarification, that comment never came out of my mouth as I was quoted in the paper saying that that position included $161,000 salary plus for that position. So I just wanted to make that point of clarification and thank Sheriff Legault for providing us with more accurate figures that maybe people in the news would refer to and do their research before they make such outlandish quotes in the paper. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruff.
I do have a question. Mr. Chairman, so I'm just trying to understand this. There's obviously an endorsement by the sheriff to increase this individual to full-time. And I'm just looking at the numbers here and trying to understand them. So, you know, it's $43,000 a year. I'm guessing that's the salary. Salary alone, based on a 29-hour work week, which is basically 75% work week. And then going up to $80,000 on a 40-hour work week is like a 50% increase in salary, but a 25% increase in the hours worked. And so I'm trying to reconcile that in my head, and I wonder if anyone
I don't think it's a 20. Say that again, I'm sorry. He only works 25 hours.
This says based on 43,000.
Yeah, but he's given up hours for his secretarial position. Yeah, he only works 25 hours in a week. He gave up 4 hours, 24 hours is 24 hours is what he works.
So let me ask it this way: what's Trent currently being paid for the 25 hours?
He's getting the 50,000, but he's not, it's still budgeted at the 50,000, but part of that money's going to help pay for that secretarial helper. He's still getting the 50, it's
My
still being
question
paid
is
back.
the salary, the amount is almost doubling, going up by 100%, and we're going from 29 hours to 40 hours, which is, basically a 25% increase. I'm just trying to reconcile, it's not one for one here based on the hours.
Sure. You say we're 24 hours?
He works 24 hours currently,
That's
Okay.
a 60% schedule.
and then his estimated wages for 2018 will be around 43,000.
I guess I'm just missing it here. It just seems like it would be more like $65,000 one-to-one based on the formula that I see here.
Well, I think part of the explanation that I was understanding was that, part of the wage study kicks in too. I thought the same thing. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm going, whew, that's a huge increase. But, there's wage study issues going on here, and there's competitive rates going on. There's all kinds of justifications for it, but this makes it clear. But it's still not $160,000 a year.
No, I understand that, and I understand there's more to it, but looking at this sheet here, I just had trouble going from 50,000 on 29 hours or 43, but anyway, I'm not sure.
Yep, but just a reminder that 37% of his salary will be paid for by the state through wage reimbursement.
Sure.
So in essence, we're still only paying $50,000. And yes, it did correlate with a lot of what he does on the new wage study that put him there. And yeah, no, this is a big expense, but it's something that it appears, I believe we were saying Monday, that a lot of our department heads of the fire departments and police, they like what he does, he's doing a good job.
I have no issues with the work
Sure.
he's been doing. I just wanted to make sure I understood the formula that's being used.
And I also,
Question was on
The way I look at it, when we raise them up, that means that we get more from the state too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll help too.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I just wanted
And
to
it's
clarify that.
overall to our budget, everybody's freaking out that he's going full-time and his wages are so high. It's a $23,000 increase to our budget overall, which,
with the full-time, will we get a
that's with
full-time
full-time,
plan?
yes, everything, yeah, full-time.
And he does not accept health.
And that's no health care, there's no health care attached to him or.
Now, if we would have to replace.
But I mean, this
him,
was
that may be
something we had discussed previously and everybody seemed to be in favor of it, and then it failed and. now it's coming up, and it seems like the complete opposite has happened. The ones that were in favor of it going to full-time are now against it going to full-time, and the ones that wanted it to be part-time want it full-time, so it's kind of weird how the
I'm not opposed to it, I think it should be
Swing.
full-time, I'm just trying to understand that, that's all.
And I think the part-time number was kind of something we just, at the time, had plucked out of there, you know, I don't know that the part-time figure was ever really an accurate figure, we just,
And to remind, this board did not make this position part-time. It was made part-time by the previous board.
so I mean, well, my thought is that part-time wage might have needed to have been higher, but we just arbitrarily picked 50 and said that's
I
what
think
we're
you're
gonna go
right.
with,
That's
and
what I recall.
it probably should have been higher than that, but, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, 2 terms ago, it was made part-time. The last term, I never wanted it to be a part-time job. The sheriff told me how it wasn't needed to be full-time. I was told by several other commissioners how it wasn't needed to be full-time. So it was basically, at the time, a political deal, why we kept it at part-time to shove somebody out. Should have never been done that way. We should have just removed that person from our employment and made it full-time. And so it's not that I'm against full-time, it's just that I fought very hard to make this full-time 2 years ago and everybody was against me. So now it's.
I'd like to
just the way it
clarify,
is.
it wasn't the sheriff that made the
Not you,
decision.
Sheriff.
It was the sheriff. at
The
one
other
time.
sheriff.
Right?
It was.
That's,
No.
we're gonna.
I do feel, you know, that there's a lot of necessity in his job, and there's so many things that, you know, he does for the county, for a lack of better, you get what you pay for. He's very highly sought after, and has many, many opportunities to go other places, and I think a lot of this is to motivate him to stay there as well. The District 5 Regional Commander for the Emergency Management for the state said, "You won't get Trent Atkins, we have him, let's keep him, he's a great emergency manager."
I do suspect too that even at 25 hours, I would guess this gentleman was probably
He's
working
put
40.
60s in.
Yeah, I think he's probably been working full-time, or part-time stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Just
On a different note,
I'm sure he does.
two different things. I am learning of the public hearing for the Thursday, December 20th.
Yes.
I would ask that my schedule is considered for future meetings. This is about the 4th time that you guys aren't aware that that has been a conflict for me. And I am the clerk, and I do have a backup, but that backup does have a family, so I usually am the one. That being said, the 20th is my staff Christmas party. And so I would like your permission, I've already spoke with Casey, she was planning on being here, that she could fill in for me that night, because we worked diligently to get our schedules together to have that, and I'd like to do that.
No, well, we normally wouldn't have done that, it's, we're gonna,
I know,
we're, you know, running
I
the
took
wire
today off
here
that
and we
day,
need to
now.
make sure we,
I'm glad I thought the
So I'm in your
27th, but
yeah.
it's just that I never get a phone call saying, hey, does this date work for you? I would appreciate that for next year.
We'll make sure Mike gives you a call.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot other than the 27th.
Commissioner Olson,
Can we make a public comment before we go into closed session?
we certainly can, that's a good idea. I feel like there was something else to discuss before. Is anyone had any other discussion items before we move on? Okay, in that case, we have to vote to go into closed session if I'm not mistaken. And so I would entertain a motion to. Oh, that's true. All right, any other comments from the board?
No, I'd like to just clarify about these appointments. I wasn't singling out Mr. McMaster, it's more the process. I know Dan served and he's committed. I just think it's excessive is all. And so I'll have a conversation with Dan tomorrow, and I would have made the same vote tonight, but it's more symbolic in nature about the need to continue to recruit new people and fresh blood to the county's business. I just, in my short 2 years that I've been here, I think there's a lot more we can rely on with the 70,000 people that reside in this county for their expertise and interest. If the word got out and we were more aggressive at those recruitment efforts,
We
so.
have got to find ways to make that happen, as you
That's all.
There's no question.
I'll leave it at that.
I remember this last thing, I wanted to direct your attention very quickly to this sheet that was given to all of us. I didn't understand what it was at first, but my understanding is, and you know what, can you explain this to us? Because I have no idea.
This is for the certification records that people come into the clerks on the vital records for marriage, death, and birth. And the first copy rate currently for our county is $10. And then if they require a second copy in the same transaction, it's $5. So Commissioner McMaster called other counties around us, and these are their rates. And so it's the initial copy with the second copy fee that is charged currently.
Okay, so we can look through that and decide if that's something we want to talk about, I guess, when this comes to sealing the budget. So we don't have to deal with that today. That said, let's move on to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a statement of the rest of the board this time? Mr. Ramsey, you are.
Yes, three things. Number one, thank you for stating the reasoning on why a new person was chosen over a longtime member on the planning. Thank you. I think that answered wanting new blood. That answer is very, very straightforward, and that's transparent. Thank you. Number two, I didn't know about all of the openings on the board. And I would say that most people in our community wouldn't know either, since most people do not get their news from a paper anymore. But instead, they get their news off their phone or a computer, and they don't pay for a paper. There is a certain percentage of our population, probably about 10% of our population left in the county out of 70,000. But Forensic Community News Group is digital. We have 32,000 readers. And we provide news and information at no cost. I would be willing to say that 80%, 85% of our readers do not buy a newspaper. What I'm offering is we would be happy to publish any information on openings at no cost. I'm not suggesting that you don't put it in the paper. Please, you should hit all spectrums of the media. So, but we will publish it at no cost to our 32,000 readers. And then number three, the only thing is what was just discussed regarding moving this position from part-time to full-time. Is that going to be voted on tomorrow, or isn't that going to be voted on as just done? If you guys could answer, because I didn't hear that you guys were going to vote on it tomorrow. So, thank you.
It's in the budget to be adopted, so it'll officially be adopted on that December 20th.
If it is.
Public hearing, and if we have a,
It's in the proposed.
yeah, it's in the proposal.
Okay, so that's just a proposed that'll be discussed. Okay, but not tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much.
If I may, just to follow on, would there also require an official commission action to upgrade that position, assuming the budget is approved?
Yes.
So at some point, there will be a commission decision to increase it.
Okay, not today.
Not today, not next week. It sounds like January.
Yeah, it would be in
Does that
January.
have to be in January?
Unless you did decide to vote on it tomorrow, which you could do. You could even give it a future date, it's up to you guys, but it does take a board action.
I really do think we ought to look into the possibility, what does it cost to do ads on Facebook and target people? Is there a way to do that? I know that we've done it for campaigning and things like that. I think about all these applications, you're never gonna get a millennial if you just put stuff in the newspaper. You're not, so you've just disqualified 30% of the population right there. Anyone my age is not gonna find in the newspaper, it's just a fact, sorry. So we've gotta find ways to get out to people that we have these openings and not have blanket, I want a list of 15 people that wanna sit on every single board and get all the names for every different board and always have a plethora of selection, and we're just not getting that. I know we talked about it 2 years ago and really didn't do anything with it, but we really ought to start talking about putting some budget money aside and figuring out what it really would cost to get the word out that we need people to serve. because I know that the Argus put it in the paper 2 years ago, and there was like a little bit of a push, and we had some more than usual, but it really died out after the first year. So,
I agree, we've talked about it for 6 years, I've talked about it, and, the board really needs to do something to get a few more people.
Just to clarify, 2 years ago, I spent a fair amount of time. I looked at surrounding counties, and Oakland County in particular, and the process they use to recruit names. There's forms. I brought a process forward indicating some potential costs that may be incurred. And there wasn't support at that time to spend money to do the kind of job that it would take to get fresh blood in New Canaan. I just want to, I was fully supportive and finding the money to make that happen at that time for all the reasons we're talking about today. So I hope going forward, the seated commission next year picks up this issue, and there's a majority of at least commissioners that want to, put their money where their mouth is and reach out.
It couldn't be that expensive.
It's not.
it's the right thing to do regardless of, how expensive it is.
To that note, I was at a conference and they were talking about Facebook,
Yeah.
because some county clerks choose to do a Facebook, but they have expressed the work involved. But on a county level, some counties have a Facebook page as well. I know working through the friendly court, we did a Facebook page, and that is no cost, and people, if they know about it, then it's free.
I don't have a Facebook, I don't know much about it, I said targeting, that would actually say that's probably,
But you need
cannot do
someone,
that.
you need someone.
Because then you're targeting, right, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just think there's gotta be a way to do it. I think you're right, Facebook's a good start, and maybe other social media.
But it is someone who has
In
the time
addition
to manage
to
it.
taking Mr. Menke up on his offer, in addition to continuing to put the ads in the papers where people do see and just getting the word out there. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Is there any other public individuals who would like to address the board at this time? Go ahead and close session. Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for attending. At this time, we're going to entertain the idea whether we will go into closed session. So I will accept the motion that this board moves into closed session at this point to discuss current collective bargaining negotiations.
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second that with the invitation to the sheriffs to join us on these negotiations as well.
If you would. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there anybody that disagrees? In that case, we have a roll call this, Madam Clerk, please.
Sorry. Commissioner McMaster's is excused. Commissioner Cascarelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Bruff?
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
No.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Chairman Barks?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Marks?
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. At this time, we will go into closed session. We'll take 3 minutes. Closed session at 6:24.